For those who have careers that keep them out at sea for long periods of time. What is the creepiest thing you've seen out in the water? Some 20 years ago, on the MV Explorer, since sunk down near the Antarctic Circle, sailing around the bergs and occasionally making landfall, we rounded into a small bay area, and there, amongst the ice and coast, was an unmarked sailing yacht, which is odd as generally yachts have some identifying markings on them. To add to it, they didn't respond to any radio contact. And whilst I wasn't privy to the conversation, and it was a long time ago, some crew went across via Zodiac and were refused boarding. So basically a yacht, not a particularly large one, that was unmarked was hanging around in the inhospitable waters of the Antarctic and didn't want any help or contact. Proper weird. I am a recreational sailor who travels for weeks at a time at sea. I once saw a flame on the water not 10 yards from me. Just freaking burning at midnight. I used to be an oilfield diver in the Gulf of Mexico. I'd say about 80% of the dives I logged were at night. Mostly 500 feet and under DSVs. It's very eerie feeling sitting on the downline doing in-water decompression in the middle of night. I'd always ask topside to turn off my headlight. Like a worm on a hook. Just bobbing in the darkness. The bioluminescent animals, or whatever they are, in the water is pretty amazing. Our toilet would fill up with seawater, and if you took a piss in it in the middle of the night, it would agitate the water and it would glow sometimes. In 20 years, the weirdest shit I've seen is other people that work out here. There's about 40% of the sailors like what they do and are good at it. Another 40% that are good at it, but would do something better if the money was right. But there's another 20%. If they lived ashore for more than 6 months a year, they'd end up dead or incarcerated. There's no more west for them to go to, so they went offshore and became our problem. A dead human body. It was the tropics and it wasn't in good shape. We turned it over to the authorities at nearest land. There were enough teeth left to identify it by dental records. Here's hoping the man's family got closure. Edit. Ultral 2010 is correct. The body was double-bagged and stored in the walk-in freezer until our next port visit. There was quite a bit of cleaning and decontamination involved. But that's the gist of it. What celebrity death are you surprised hasn't happened yet? Morgan Freeman has been old all my life. Dick Van Dyke. He's 97. I love him, but Ozzy. I'm not sure how he's still alive. Jimmy Carter. Every time I see Bam Margera's name in a headline, I think it's finally the one. Bam Margera. What are some signs that your married friend doesn't have a good marriage? When my husband died, some friends admitted that they were a little jealous. An occasional joke at their expense is one thing. My wife and I do it, but you could really insert anyone's name in the joke. But when they criticize theirsa for the same personal thing non-stop, it starts to get telling. Like constantly telling everyone your wife is a shitty cook. Never wants to go home. Doesn't like bringing their spouse as +1. Speaking poorly of spouse. Future plans sound more I than we. And lack of excitement around the holidays. They continually complain about their spouse in front of others. Or disparage them. They're just always in a bad mood when they're around their spouse. This was the case with my best friend. I had only ever known her after she met her spouse. And she was always so low energy. Easily irritated. And generally unhappy. Mostly around him. It was so much a part of their dynamic that I, shamefully, assumed that's who she was. After a nasty split, she's become so much happier, lighter, and more herself. She started telling me about all the emotional abuse and borderline physical abuse after he was gone. I'm very happy and proud of her for getting out of it. Lesser known symptom. Working long hours habitually. I knew a guy that wasted tons of time in the office, but worked every night until 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock because he clearly hated his wife and daughters. Also works for people who spend all their time volunteering to get out of the house. They always complain about how busy they are, but they have no problem talking to you while working. What unforgivable act by a celebrity did the public seem to forget too easily? Floyd Mayweather beat the shit out of his former girlfriend, and got away with it because the judge allowed him to train for a fight he was headlining. Soulja Boy beat a pregnant woman into having a miscarriage. Why the fuck does Chris Brown still have a career? CeeLo Green. The way he straight up admitted to raping people BC he thought it didn't count if they were drugged? It was so disillusioning to see him still get features, invites, media attention after that. Richards. Robert H. IV. The heir to the estimated $14 billion fortune of the DuPont family. Richards was jailed in 2009 for abusing his 3-year-old daughter sexually. In an attempt to clear his record, the billionaire offered to take a polygraph test. Nevertheless, he failed the test and ultimately admitted to the accusations. He could have faced a 30-year jail sentence, but his attorneys managed to have the accusation reduced to 4th-degree rape, earning him an 8-year sentence instead. But the court decided that he wouldn't fare well in jail, so they suspended his sentence and released him on probation. Boy George abducted and tortured a man in 2007. What is something weird or fucked up that your family did when you were growing up that you assumed was a normal thing everyone did, only to learn in adulthood that it was anything but? When we got home from anywhere in the evenings, we kids would all wait in the car while one of my parents went inside, grabbed their shotgun, and checked every single room in the house and the backyard before we were allowed to come in. I didn't realize my mom had been being stalked by a very dangerous dude and were making sure he wasn't waiting inside the house. I thought they were checking for bears. I have no idea why, but it seemed like a good idea to be on the safe side. We lived in the country and had no trash service, so a couple nights a week my dad would load up the car with us kids and the household trash, and we'd slowly cruise the McDonald's parking lot in town looking for a garbage can in a dark corner. Look around, toss a bag in, and drive quickly away. Next stop, Kmart parking lot, and repeat. My mom used to have us puke in bath towels when we got sick instead of the toilet. Even as an adult, for a while every time I smelled a towel I would gag no matter how clean it was. After whipping us bloody, but on the backside where Jesus said to, they would comfort us with ice packs and tell us how important it was to never tell anyone outside our family about the discipline, because the police would take us away and send us horrible, terrible orphanages where we would wish we were back at home. My mom would pass out on the sofa partially naked and be there from evening time until noon the next day. It was understood not to disturb her. I didn't learn until after she died, when I was in high school, that she was drunk all that time. I just assumed all families had one parent who did this. Pretend each of Dad's girlfriends were part of the family, and had always been part of the family. What's something that is considered normal now but won't be in 10+ years? Hopefully family vlog style social media content. I think we'll have a wave of kids who grew up being featured on popular family YouTube channels, or TikTok, or any other platform, reach adulthood and speak out about how unhealthy it was. We already have some who were filmed on family reality shows that aired on TV channels like TLC. But the proliferation of these on social media is so much more widespread. If social media history is any indication, TikTok won't be the most popular app among teens in 10 years. Being able to be offline or uncontactable. Owning things outright without having to pay a subscription. As a smoker, I really hope smoking having a Facebook. Subscribe, my brothers.